Last week, the US operations of the massive social video platform TikTok came into the partial ownership of one Larry Ellison and his company, Oracle. And Ellison, a tech billionaire and one of the world's wealthiest people, is also a close ally of, you guessed it, US President Donald Trump. So it's perhaps no surprise that users of the app have complained that content critical of the US government and published by users in the United States is being interfered with or even suppressed. This is a clip of US TV host Andy Cohen giving a short monologue on his comedy show addressing the murder of Alex Pretty on the streets of Minneapolis by federal border agents. And it's very critical of the administration, with Cohen essentially calling them liars. As you can see, a lot, possibly hundreds of users are reporting that the video won't load or freezes or is glitching. Here's another video released overnight from a smaller account called The Necessary Conversation. It publishes conversations between a liberal son and his MAGA-supporting parents. In this video, they're discussing the slaying of Pretty. Again, it's critical of the American government. And again, hundreds of users are reporting glitches and freezing. But not all videos are suffering the same issues. This is another clip from the very same Andy Cohen show, posted by the same account just 2 hours after the first one, but this time addressing entertainment topics, no politics, and therefore no issues reported by users. And this clip from the same show was posted just a little before the Trump critical one. Again, it's focused just on entertainment, and there are no complaints from users. Funny that. The issues with Trump critical videos have been reported far and wide. Forbes magazine has reported on a deluge of Democrat politicians, influencers, and celebrities raising concerns about censorship, especially when the content involves discussion of the ICE execution of Alex Pretty on Saturday. Those speaking out include US law professor Steve Vladek, who posted this to his 250,000 Blue Sky followers on Monday. This morning, I recorded a video on TikTok about why DHS's arguments for the power to enter homes without judicial warrants in immigration cases are bunk. 9 hours later, TikTok still says my video is, quote, under review and can't be shared. Well, here's a link. Megan Stalter, an actress from the hit series Hacks, posted this to Instagram on Monday. Hi, so today I'll be downloading my videos and deleting my TikTok page. TikTok is under new ownership and we're being completely censored and monitored. I'm unable to upload anything about ICE even after I tried to trick the page by making it look like a comedy video. Let's delete the app. Love you. The governor of California and frequent Trump critic Gavin Newsom has also got involved, with his office posting this online on Tuesday. New, following TikTok's sale to a Trump-aligned business group, our office has received reports and independently confirmed instances of suppressed content critical of President Trump. California Governor Gavin Newsom is launching a review of this conduct and is calling on the California Department of Justice to determine whether it violates California law. I suspect it does. For its part, the consortium that now owns TikTok's US operations tried to explain the issues with this statement. We're continuing to resolve major infrastructure issues triggered by a power outage at one of our US data center partner sites. While the network has been recovered, the outage caused a cascading systems failure that we've been working to resolve together with our data center partner. What this means for your TikTok experience, you may notice multiple bugs, slower loading times, or timed out requests, including when posting new content. Creators may temporarily see 0 views or likes on videos, and your earnings may look like they're missing. This is a display error caused by server timeouts. Your actual data and engagement are safe. Thank you for your patience and understanding as we work to bring TikTok back to full capacity as soon as we can. The right to operate TikTok in the US was sold to Oracle, along with 2 other companies, by Chinese TikTok owner ByteDance after months, even years, of political pressure. Donald Trump described the deal as meaning, quote, TikTok will now be owned by a group of American patriots and investors, the biggest in the world. US officials became anxious about the giant app in 2020, which is when Trump first tried to ban it in the United States. Concerns raised by US lawmakers included claims that Chinese ownership of such an influential and popular app could lead to undue foreign influence on American citizens, the theft of their data, and the platform even being used to surveil its users, heaven forbid. But of course, the claims of censorship of the app under US control, especially by close Trump allies, may suggest, ironically enough, that users were better off in Chinese hands, and that the Chinese Communist Party was a better guarantor of free speech, in the United States at least, than the Trump White House. Something to think about. Kieran, TikTok, What's going on? That looks like a reasonable excuse, but then I've seen some pretty outrageous stuff there.
No, I think it's quite clear what's going on. And I think, Aaron, underpinning all of this is Silicon Valley created a paradox for capitalism. It created a paradox for capitalism because the technologies that it produced genuinely contained the potential to disrupt existing order. It genuinely contained the potential for counter-hegemonic or counter-mainstream narratives and the dissemination of those narratives. But of course, as soon as that was understood and the monsoon of dollars kind of turned into pallid faces in the corridors of power, big capital and their politician outriders, or its politician outriders, did as much as they could to recuperate those technologies and ensure that they became monopolistic technologies that reflected kind of imperialist narratives, mainstream narratives, and so on. And I think we're living for a period in which that battle has largely been won with the biggest big tech companies, the biggest big tech technologies. We're living in a period in which big tech, most of that recuperation has been done, but there is still kind of fighting in the margins. I mean, what's your view?
It's over. You know, I think it's a matter of time before we see the end of the American internet. And I say that as somebody who, we started an organization which depends on not just Google and Meta products, Instagram and YouTube, but even internally, Notion, Slack. We are all dependent, as we'll see in a moment, we are all dependent, particularly in Europe, on these really important American products. And I think the challenge now is to move beyond them. And I think that's easy in some places, yeah. You can have a non-US Slack, really easy, a non-US Notion, email, might not have exactly the same functionality, but then stuff like Instagram, Google, it's going to be really challenging. I think it's a matter of when, not if. Mm-hmm. I do think this is going to be a major problem, right? We talk about multipolarity, the end of the American world order. This is a part of it. We'll see. I hope not, of course. I love all of you. We'll be on YouTube as long as they'll have us. Ellison's control of TikTok has also spawned a new competitor built by Palestinian-Australian developer Issam Hijazi. Launched in 2025, Upscroll has soared to top of the UK Apple Store's downloads for social apps, fueled by rumours of censorship on TikTok. It also stands at third in the US for social apps, but fourth for all categories of apps, and it's 12th across all apps in Australia. Pretty impressive. Speaking on a panel last year, Upscroll developer Issam Hijazi explained why he'd focused on building his own app.
Larry Ellison, the owner of Oracle, is the biggest contributor to the Friends for Idea charity, right?
Yeah, that's right.
His last contribution was about 16 million, and that tells you something. If that person, who's friend with Benjamin Netanyahu and Israel in general, is gonna own 80% of TikTok, moving on, and if Netanyahu himself saying that the importance of utilizing TikTok and X to spread their narrative, that tells you a lot of things. They understand the danger that TikTok has created, obviously, and social media in general, of reaching out to every person across the globe or showing the real face of Israel to the world. And now they want to control that, just like they controlled CNN, just like they control Fox News and all the other media outlets. They understand now this is the new tool to control the brains of the young generation everywhere. And they want to ensure that they send them messages that they want to brainwash the next generation. It's going to get even worse. I think at some point we will not be able to speak out about anything that's pro-Palestinian or anything that goes against their propaganda.
That's pretty extraordinary for a guy who's created a very, very, very good app. Novara Media's on there, just about. I think we joined last night. We saw it was doing so well in the UK. We thought, well, let's give it a try. I'm on there. I never did TikTok. I'm too old. I do lots of X, I do Instagram. But he's making a very, very important point, which is you cannot rely on these platforms. That's obviously a very good left-wing argument for the existence of Upscroll, one that free speech-loving liberals should embrace too, but it's also a good business case. If TikTok wants to suppress pro-Palestinian content, then suddenly a market, and clearly a very fast-growing one, emerges for a site that won't. And there's good reason to think that TikTok has suppressed pro-Palestinian content. As of last week, Adam Presser is CEO of TikTok's US operations. Before that, he was TikTok's head of operations. But a video of Presser speaking at an event in Jerusalem in May 2025 has recently resurfaced and has been viewed millions of times.
We made a change to designate the use of the term Zionist as a proxy for a protected attribute as hate speech. So if somebody were to use Zionist, of course you can use it in the sense of you're a proud Zionist, but if you're using it in the context of degrading somebody, calling somebody a Zionist as a dirty name, then that gets designated as hate speech to be moderated against. Over the course of 2024, we tripled the amount of accounts that we were banning for hateful activity. We also have, I think, over 24 Jewish organizations that are constantly feeding us intelligence and information when they spot violative trends. There is no finish line. There's no finish line to moderating hate speech, identifying hateful trends, trying to keep the platform safe. There's no such thing as an end game.
The first bit, that's crazy. I'm a Zionist. You're a Zionist? No problem. Oh, you're a Zionist? How dare you? Censor this person. Get them off the platform. So basically, let me get this right. Every other country in the world, if you say you're a radical ultranationalist, that's a problem, unless it's Israel, and then it's fine. And actually, we're going to protect you, poor little you. In your poor little country, you've got nuclear weapons and a very powerful secret services, and you've got, the patronage of the world's most powerful country. Poor you. TikTok will look after you. Kieran, what do you think?
Last time I was in Palestine, I said to family and friends and the people in the community, why is it that Israel has become so unpopular over the past 20 years, 25 years? What's happened? It's such an extraordinary shift where Israel can go from being this place that unites liberals and conservatives the world over. And suddenly now it is so deeply, profoundly unpopular. What's happened? And they all answered unequivocally. They said social media. The ability of Palestinians to report and document in real time their own suffering and injustice without the influence or the mediation of the mainstream media, with all of its inbuilt biases, with all of the pressure from pro-Israel interest groups and big business interest groups and so on. The ability of Palestinians to do that has completely flipped the script. That's what it was. And so I think highlighting that, I largely agree with them. I think highlighting that underscores why this particular area, Palestine, Israel, is such a critical terrain for these guys to fight on. It's borne very tangible fruit and it's very clear material shifts. And for that reason, they absolutely have to go to war with everybody that has shifted, the world that is pro-Palestine.
They have to go to war with free speech. Larry Ellison bought TikTok. He, by the way, for peanuts, given its actual value, he bought CBS. These people funded the Free Press, this fake media organization. I call it fake. That's unfair, right? Let me put my Michael Walker hat on. It's a media organization with certain political commitments, but it's certainly not worth $150 million US, right? Novara has a bigger social footprint than they do. I don't think I wish we were worth 150. We wouldn't sell, but it'd be cool, right? It'd be cool for our supporters to be helping that be possible. We're not worth that. They're not worth that. And that was started and then purchased, and then, Barry Weiss, who started the Free Press, is then the head of, I think, news at CBS, all because Larry Ellison is in real time saying we need to manufacture consent. This is not some macro analysis by some sort of intellectual in a university. One of the world's richest people is, we need to manufacture consent. What can we do? What levers can we pull? Fund this new thing, buy that, censor these people. What can we do? And it's extraordinary seeing it happen out in the open. Of course, elites have always worked like that, but this is something different. I want to quickly go to a comment because I think it's very important. Micah's Music. Does Aaron or anyone else at Novara get paid by X for their posts? So I've got a verified account so I can DM people to get them on downstream without them following me necessarily. That's why I have a verified account. I am not monetized, which you'll know if you go through my tweets. You won't see any ads. I'm not monetized because I don't want to give my ID to Elon Musk. I'm probably missing out on a couple of grand a year, I'm sure. It doesn't really bother me. So no, I'm not getting a penny from X, nor is Novara. as I understand it. But I'm certainly not. And if you want receipts, I can show you screen grabs of not being monetized. If you do want to support our work here at Novara Media, though, of course, go to novaramedia.com/support. We built, by the way, our own payment system. It's all in-house. We built that. So we're already trying to build in some resilience to this kind of response, right? We're going to have to build a lot more of that in the years ahead, because there are people, not just Larry Ellison, who want to take back control of the narrative, whether it's Gaza, whether it's inequality, whether it's working people getting a better deal. They want to take back control, which is why you've got to support people like Novara Media, or even if you don't like us, somebody else who's doing a similar job. Because without these grassroots, independent media outlets and voices, people like Larry Ellison are going to win. And that ain't good. Clearly, because technology is powerful, it's always going to be political. So perhaps the question isn't how do you get politics out of technology, but how do states control the politics around it? And that's something France seems to be onto, having announced that by 2027, they'll be ditching US technologies like Microsoft Teams and Zoom in government departments because of security concerns. Instead, the French government says they'll be investing in sovereign platforms, some of which already exist. So French developed and French made, with the aim of serving national security while keeping the economic benefits of its population using the technology inside the country. I think that's sensible. Britain should be doing something similar, presumably.
It absolutely should, but it took this path of absolute folly about 50, 60 years ago, which was to deindustrialize, and about 40 years ago to shift a lot of its resources into financialization and the financial services sector. And if you even the most conservative French president over the past 50, 60 years, Fifth Republic and beyond, none of them have ever considered themselves vassals of the United States or wanted to align themselves so close with the United States that it compromises national industry and so on. And I think that has made an enormous difference to the developmental path that France has taken. And that's expressing itself now when you see the United States kind of destroying the post-World War II order and the economic alliances related to or attendant to it. And it is a stark contrast to Britain. You're absolutely right. For all sorts of complex reasons which are beyond the remit of our conversation now. But I think that's essentially the prime cause.
I mean, the dependence on US technology, it's something we talked about last week. Trident's independent. Bro, those missiles have kill switches, right? Those F-35s, if you don't think they've got kill switches in the US, I don't think you were born yesterday, but you might as well have been.